Creative Pro Wrestling fans, I am longtime independent wrestling fan Robert. Dreamland USA was an awesome show from the Knights of Columbus in Lynbrook, Long Island. The night begins with the sweeper Eddie Privetti going one-on-one with the dime piece Aaron Rourke. A match where, in the early going of the match, I don't know if the bell had already rung, both Privetti and Rourke were exchanging the broom and, try to sweep certain ways with the broom. And I don't know if somebody in the crowd was saying to sweep or not. But the match got underway, and I forgot how the dime piece Aaron Rourke defeated the sweeper Eddie Privetti. Next up in tag team action, we saw the Even Stevens, Steven Azure and Steve Somerset, do battle with Eric James and VSK, the Adrenaline Express. Of course, to this day, Eric James still sings the Backstreet Boys song, I Want It That Way, karaoke style. Well, a cappella style. Not karaoke style, a cappella style. As much as the people love that song, I was not big on the boy band craze of the late 90s, early 2000s. Boy bands are sissies. Their fan base was nothing but good-looking chicks and small children. The match was on, and I gotta say, these two teams actually clicked very nicely with each other. I mean, I've watched the Even Stevens. Well, they've really come along in the last 3+ years. I mean, almost 4 years now. I've been going to Creative Pro events. And these guys are not just, a character with the Even Stevens name and themes. But eventually, the Adrenaline Express defeated Even Stevens to pick up the victory. Up next, we've had women's action as we saw making her Creative Pro Wrestling debut, Paris Van Dale, as she took on the international pop star Becca. That's Becca spelled with a 3 instead of an E. The fans were eating Becca alive, and because she's from the Boston area. I don't know if that was mostly Yankee fans saying Boston sucks and all that other anti-Boston stuff. Eventually, Becca defeated Paris Van Dale to pick up the victory. Next, another singles match, as we saw Jay George accompanied the ring by Lenny, and all apologies for not getting the other man's name, as Jay George took on Mr. Creative Pro Wrestling himself, the most professional wrestler, Brian Myers. These two went at it, and at one point I forgot, something was probably said by George, because Myers, he eventually he brought George over to where his wife and children were, and they got their licks in on Jay George before going back to the ring, and Brian Myers ended up putting down Jay George for the 3 count to pick up the win. Next up was a triple threat match as both members of the Vlog Bro University, Jack Tomlinson and Dante Drago, challenged Bobby Orlando for the television championship. Mostly at the beginning, Drago and Tomlinson were double teaming Orlando, but it got to a point where they started butting heads with each other. I think Drago prevented Tomlinson from getting a 3 count, and then I think the same thing happened later on, and then they started butting heads. I forgot, I think it was Tomlinson, he got a hold of a sign that Joe Carson brought. It said Bobby Slam, and Tomlinson ripped it up. Can't believe that happened. But Bobby Orlando, I forgot how it ended, but he defeated Dante Drago and Jack Tomlinson to retain the Creative Pro Wrestling Television Championship. Up next was a 6-man tag team action as Liam Davis joined forces with Leo Sparrow, the Vegan, and the Phoenix GKM, the Birds of the Sun, accompanied the ring by the Big Bird, John Clash, as they did battle with the newly crowned tag team champions, CPA and Kevin Tibbs, the Midlife Express. And by the way, when they came to the ring, Ryan Peterson messed up big time by calling them the Midlife Crisis. And Kevin Tibbs took the microphone correcting when I forgot what Tibbs called Peterson. But the Midlife Express, their partner was none other than Mr. ECW himself, the innovator of violence, Tommy Dreamer. And good match these 6 men had. It got to the point where Dreamer and CPA did the Dudley Boys What's Up headbutt. And then Dreamer and CPA get the tables. It turned out to be a wooden door that was positioned in the corner. And I forgot who was it Leo Sparrow? Dreamer gave one of them a Death Alley, Spicoli driver through the door, set up in the corner. And I believe Dreamer scored the pinfall, enabling Dreamer and the Midlife Express to defeat Liam Davis and the Birds of the Sun. But at that point, out comes the Adrenaline Express, VSK and Eric James. They attack Midlife Express and Dreamer, and they hold the tag belts up before leaving them on Kevin Tibbs and CPA's prone bodies. And I gotta say, John, I don't know if Johnny Clash is not wrestling right now or he's done in the ring as a wrestler, but the Big Bird, come on. What are we gonna do next? We're gonna dress him up and dress up Leo Sparrow and GKM as the Birdketeers from Sesame Street? Well, at that point, the show had gone to intermission. They resumed the show with a 5-way match in which Patrick Fitzpatrick, Dr. Cool J Clang, Nick Robles, and Sebastian Amor challenged Evil Kip for the Mayhem medal. A lot of good stuff went on here. At one point, Evil Kip was placed in the trio of Whoa! And I believe it was Robles, and I don't know if it was Amor. They were like slumped in the corner up against Kip's body, and Clang hit Van Coolinator, I guess we'll call it, since the good doctor loves to use the word cool so much. And I believe he put the ankle lock on Amor, is it? And the referee was trying to check for a submission, and Kip broke away from, managed to get loose from that tree of Whoa, and he's on top of Robles. And I don't know if the referee missed his cue, but he was taking so long to notice that Kip was on top of Robles and made the 3 count, enabling Evil Kip to retain the Mayhem medal. And by virtue of his victory, by the time the next Creative Pro event rolls around, Evil Kip will have been Mayhem medal holder for over 1 year. He won it at I believe he won it at Crapola. He won it at Great Heights last April. That's when he won the Mayhem medal. Up next, we had, I don't know if this was a first. I don't know if there has been. We had a women's tag team match. I don't know if it was a first in Creative Pro history or not. But as we saw making her Creative Pro debut, Sassy Boatwright, teaming up with Nat, making her first match ever, teaming up with a woman making her in her first match ever, Nat Castle, as they took on Zulekea. All apologies for mispronouncing her name. And her tag team partner, Zuleka also was her first match ever, as her partner was the Nomi, Gabby Forza, who I guess had a lot of friends and family in the crowd, because the crowd really erupted for both of those ladies, Forza and Zuleka. Zuleka. Oh, yeah. Say all those names right or wrong 3 times fast. Good match these 4 ladies had, and I couldn't quite understand Boatwright's gear. I think it was a double team move done on, was it on Castle? Like a wheelbarrow ace crusher or cutter, and Gabby Forza the Nomi and Zulekea. That was it. Zulekea. That's how. Folks, correct me if I'm wrong, if I got it wrong. Zulekea, as they defeated Sassy Boatwright and Nat Castle. I'll have more on the ladies in a little bit. Up next was a return bout from last month's Oh Baby, as Iron Savage Bronson took one-on-one with the Silver Sniper, TJ Crawford, in a best 2 out of 3 falls. Crawford managed to pin Bronson rather quickly in the first fall. And then, I forgot how, but Bronson pinned Crawford to even it up in the second fall. But then, during the third fall, they were going at it on the floor, and they both got counted out, and the referee declared the match a draw since they were both counted out in the third and deciding fall, and they had one fall apiece. Eventually, they get back to the ring, and actually, no, Crawford, he goes after Bronson in the aisle, and Bronson, he throws, I think Bronson had I thought it was brass. Oh, he had a chain wrapped around his fist, and he knocks Crawford for a loop, and then at that point, he brings chairs into the ring. He puts one around Crawford's ankle. I don't know if that's the leg that Crawford had injured back in 2021. And Bronson was going to just do a concerto or a Pillmanizer on Crawford's leg with the other chair, but out comes Crawford's girlfriend, Paris Van Dale, trying to stop it. And eventually, I forgot what Bronson did. Yeah, I can't remember what move he did to her. He did something to her, and Crawford was so livid. I think he grabbed the chair. I don't know if he nailed Bronson with it, or he didn't nail Bronson with it, or just Bronson skedaddled out of the ring as Crawford swung the chair. Crawford then asks ring announcer Ryan Peterson for the microphone, and Crawford says, he's been tired of this, and he tells Bronson he went too far, went out attacking his girlfriend. Crawford then challenged Bronson to a match at the next show. He said, well, there'll be no DQ, no count out. A Ravens rules street fight, he went so far, he had said. So it looks like they're finally gonna, close the book on that one. On what's been going on with those two. And then it was time for the main event, as we saw Phil Cardigan challenge the Dominican Destroyer Vargas, accompanied to the ring by Creative Pro Wrestling General Manager, the Answer to Your Prayers, Ariella Nix, for the interim heavyweight championship. Well, I mean, most people didn't think Cardigan would have much of a chance, but they really, really worked hard and really clicked, and so much chaos went on. Vargas had Cardigan up for a Samoan drop, but I think Cardigan's legs bumped into referee Stephen Dumeng, knocking him out of the ring, and I forgot what else had gone on. I think, at one point, damn, crapola. I know at one point, the other referee came out. He was the one that got actually pushed around by Bronson after Bronson's match with T.J. Crawford. I think eventually out comes current heavyweight champion Bryce Donovan, and I think he went after, did something. I forgot what he took the cast off of his right hand, which they said was broken. That's why Bryce had been out of action, and I forgot what he ended up doing to Vargas. He obviously took him down. Cardigan goes up to the top rope. In the meantime, there's like three people in Creative Pro hooded sweaters. They come out to check on. I think they're checking on Dumeng. I could be wrong about that. Crawford has a top rope splash. The second referee goes to make a count, but one of those guys with a hoodie on pulls the referee out of the ring. He takes his hood off. It's Jay Macias, who has apparently aligned himself with Vargas and Ariella Nix. And I think Bryce tried to keep Ariella Nix at bay at one point. I know what happened. Bryce used the championship belt, I believe. Or was it Phil? Used the championship belt. Ooh, damn. Used the championship belt on Vargas. Took 2 shots to get him down on the mat. Eventually, Vargas nailed a Samoan spike on. I forgot he used it on Cardigan or Bryce. Oh boy. Ooh. It was just all hell broke loose here, seemingly. Eventually, Vargas picked up the win, defeating Phil Cardigan to retain the interim championship. But Bryce Donovan gets the microphone and he says to Vargas underneath that face paint, and you're hiding behind Ariel and Nix, and he went so far to call Vargas a bitch, and Bryce said at the next show it's going to be he and Vargas one-on-one to determine there'll be only one Creative Pro champion. And it was pretty much how the show ended. Though I do have to say it topped Oh Baby last month, and not just because there were more matches here. Personal notes time. It was great sitting with Scott Millman for this very event. Great seeing Joe Carson, James McGrady, Tiffany, Sierra. I know you lit up like a Christmas tree at the announcement of someone coming for the next show, which I'll get to shortly. And Sierra, you may not even notice I was actually sitting near you. Okay, some things I want to go over now. This very show, they didn't let the crowd was let in at 4:12 p.m. All apologies when I say this, Creative Pro Wrestling. You got to do better with letting the crowd in. Not fair for everybody to freeze their heinies off. I just don't know how people do it. They stand out there for an hour, maybe longer, waiting to get in. That's not going to be acceptable to everybody. All right. A lot of good-looking ladies in the crowd. All right. All right. Another thing, yeah. Seeing that there were 2 women's matches on this very event, I've said this in past Creative Pro video recaps, and I think I actually left a comment when the women's tag match was announced on Facebook. Creative Pro Wrestling, I think you should get a women's championship. I know seeing the women go at it, it's something different from seeing men all the time, but you got, because I understand the Nomi Gabby Forza, Zulakea, again I apologize if I mispronounced her name, and Nat Castle. That's 3 women you got out of the Creative Pro Academy, and you could bring in like anybody from outside the promotion to do the show. I mean, I just hope you can get maybe more ladies will come along and start training and end up on the shows, or hold that thought, everyone. Good thing I grabbed this. As I was saying, I think Creative Pro Wrestling, I think you should have, have a women's championship. It's, like I said, seeing the ladies in action, and, seems like nearly every women's match I've seen in Creative Pro history, well, in my time going to Creative Pro shows, and when I get to the next show, I'll get to that shortly. I think it's time. I kind of wish the current general manager, Ariel and Nix, I'm starting to miss seeing her in the ring at your shows. Well, wrestling on your shows. She's the GM right now, but I just hope she'll be back in the ring. Okay? Okay. Memorable quotes time. I do suck. Come find out. Dime piece Aaron Rourke when somebody in the crowd told him that he sucks during his match with sweeper Eddie Privetti. Go Brian, go Brian, go! Go Brian, go Brian, go! Some of the ladies in the crowd during Brian Myers' match with Jay George. Ladies, I don't know if you'll ever get to see this video, but I think that needs to be a regular thing for Brian's matches. That's Adam Bomb, dude. Somebody in the crowd referring to Bronson when he was in the ring before his match with TJ Crawford. There's always going to be that one fan thinking that some of the wrestlers on the indies look like somebody in WWE or someone from WWE or WCW's past. that kind of bugs me as a fan. All right. Creative Pro Wrestling returns to action on Saturday, yep, you heard me right, Saturday, May 13th, as they present Homecoming, and this will be Creative Pro's return to all sports in Melville, New York. Okay, already announced to appear on this event is former ECW World Champion, former ECW Tag Team Champion, former WCW Light Heavyweight Champion, former WCW United States Heavyweight Champion, former WCW Tag Team Champion, former WWE Hardcore Champion, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And he's held other titles aside from the ones I mentioned. The man who's always asking, what about me? Raven. And if that was not enough, Creative Pro Wrestling original, alumnus, current All Elite Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion, MJF. Now, from what took place at Dreamland USA here, I gather it's going to be TJ Crawford one-on-one with Bronson in a Ravens Rules street fight. Bryce Donovan one-on-one with the Dominican Destroyer Vargas to have only one Creative Pro Heavyweight Champion. I would like to see the Midlife Express defend the Tag Team Championship against the Adrenaline Express. Again, oh, look at that. Battle of the Expresses. First there was the Rock and Roll Express against the Midnight Express. We got, I'm hoping this is happening, the Adrenaline Express against the Midlife Express for the Tag Team Championships. Yeah, look at that. Express vs. Express in 2023. Okay. I would like, I don't know, maybe we'll have the King of Cat Battle Royal for this show. Because usually when, a show of huge magnitude like this one coming up, I notice Creative Pro Wrestling does everything they can to squeeze so many people on the show. But then again, what other promotion doesn't do that for a really, 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 really big show? All right. I'm sure well, actually, since, like I said, the show is happening. Next show is Saturday, May 13th. By the time that show takes place, Evil Kip will have been Mayhem Medal holder for over 1 year because he won it at Great Heights in April of 2022. So by the time May 13th arrives, it will be over a year. So I'm sure he'll be defending it in that one. Now, I know I've complained about this in the past. Why is it Creative Pro Wrestling? How come when you run on a Sunday, why can't you start the shows at 2 or 3 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock? I mean, granted, the shows end at 8 p.m., but most people got to work the next morning. Students have to go to school the next morning. Oh, boy. And by the way, after this event ended, I actually walked all the way to the Taco Bell on Merrick Road, and oh, man, I was starving, number one, and they made my food very good, I will say. Okay, seeing next show is going to be on a Saturday. I hope my fellow NYWCites, Tommy and Sam, who actually missed this very show, can make it May 13th, as well as the two ladies, Jessica and Leanne, who the four of them, they usually sit with me at NYWC events. Hopefully all four of them can make this one coming up on Saturday night, May 13th. Again, Scott Millman, I think I mentioned it right after I got done going through the results of the show. And, oh man, what else can I say about this? Wow. Ooh. Blah, 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 blah. Mama, 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 mama. Ooh. I'm sure there'll be a few more big names added for this event, because we know all sports in Millville. That's like a, more room. And I gotta say, as far as the shows in Lynbrook, I hope Creative Pro can find a to do bigger place to do shows if they're not going to do when they not do the really big ones, you know. Because I just feel bad for those who had to spend practically 3 hours standing on their feet. Oh, and Joe Carson, man, I don't know if it'll be a Creative Pro event someday, but I think you and I need to sit together for a show again. It may not be a Creative Pro event. I still couldn't. I don't know, what was that one sign you had? I couldn't see what it said. I think you showed it to Bronson or somebody else. I mean, that's, even though I didn't put it to use. I have a dry erase board, or they call it, or it's, I don't know, I would call it a whiteboard. It's a dry erase board. Like a, you could just write something down and you have it erased. You can erase it and write something else with it. I don't really bring that into play too much. All right, so maybe I'll bring that into play someday. But Creative Pro Wrestling, you definitely hit a home run with this event, and sure hope May 13th will be another night to remember. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, here's another match I'd like to see due to what happened tonight in this one. Jay Macias one-on-one with Phil Cardigan. Yeah, okay. All right, folks. That's it. I mean, this is maybe my longest Creative Pro recap video ever, possibly. But, folks, May 13th, Homecoming. I mean, I know this one right here, Dreamland USA, is going to be a tough act to follow, but I think Homecoming will probably end up topping it. So, Creative Pro, keep up what you're doing.